Yeah,
Yes,
no,
yes,
absolutely.
please.
Oh, that work. Hang on one second.
Absolutely. Here we are again on the road, talking to our good friend Jeffrey
Put
Bolek
this in
from
here
up in
somehow.
Cleveland, Ohio.
How's that?
You know what? Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Sounds perfect. Do do
Good.
do. So the sun's coming up here in Ohio. We've made it to the sunrise part. We started uh we started in Kenya, then we went to California, then we went to Australia, and then we vamped a little bit. And then we went to London,
Yeah.
and then we vamped a little bit. And here we are in Cleveland, Ohio.
Yep. Closer to home.
So where are you from beyond Cleveland? Or is Cleveland born and bred?
Cleveland born and bred. So you've been up all night?
Yes.
Yeah. We still have we're actually about a little bit over a third of the way in. We'll go midnight to midnight is the route we've chosen. Um, so we're still at the short end. We're not
So
at the
when's the last time you slept?
uh I took a nap. I was really trying to get about 3, 4 hours on what had already been last night. I was too wound. It's like Christmas Day for me. I'm really excited about talking to everybody. So
Huh.
I've been like I was able to embrace it not as anxiety, but as just general too excited to open the presents the next day. So after it gets tight all the way up till like 1. I think
Uh-huh.
that from here on out, maybe there's an opening from 10. Like, so I figured a few hours into the mix where I knew that what we'd do is fill in with about 20, 30 minutes out of the hour, give some time to, restrooms, food, whatever, that kind of thing. Um,
Huh.
but so far so good. I'm still in one piece. Ross may be nodding slightly over there. Ross is
I'm
my
like,
producer, Jeff. This
I'm
is
breaking
Ross.
down here, man.
Ah,
Hey, man. How you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. Pretty good. I'm hanging in there.
So, what are your first memories, Jeff? First memories of Cleveland. What do we got?
My first memories of
Yeah, what
Cleveland.
are well, just your first memories as a
Ooh.
kid. Doesn't have to be Cleveland, but in the sense
Uh,
of
my first memories were when I was 4 years old. My parents a visit to the National Monument,
okay.
and I just remember seeing this huge building, and from the car window, and apparently they went out to kind of look at it. I was just kind of sitting in the car looking at it, and that's the earliest memory I can ever remember is that vacation trip. Um, and I was told I was 4 years old at
Okay.
the time. It's like
It
a snapshot memory kind of thing.
yeah, I've got one of those that so mine is always at the farthest, well, I'd say the farthest back is I can close my eyes and see us moving into University of Michigan married housing. Same kind of age, 3, 4 years old. I know my godfather was standing there. Not that he was yet at that, but years later we did that. But my dad was getting ready to open the door to the new place we were moving in.
Huh. Wow.
And
Yeah. That's
go ahead. No, go ahead.
no. It's just kind of interesting because they're not like memories now, where you think, well, I did this and I did that, and, it's like just kind of a little photo kind of thing,
I have one
memory.
memory that's based on a picture. Like I don't actually remember it, but I remember every time I see the picture. Like every time I see the picture, I can kind of sort of
That it almost comes back.
yeah, I can kind of sort of piece it together.
Yeah. Of course, at that time, the brain isn't really fully developed anyway, so.
Yeah.
When
That is something.
does it get there eventually? I'm in my 50s now going, I doubt it. So,
I have this theory for men. Men, it never quite reaches it, and then you go downhill. Whereas
right.
for women, they're normal.
Well, I almost think we get too far away. That it's almost get too far away from the kids we are. That there's something to be said for maintaining a certain level of awe.
Childishness,
Yeah, yeah.
almost.
Even if you are a
Mhm.
A little
Gambino,
bit.
that the reality is that I if I think that the one thing, raising a grandson now, which wasn't the initial plan, has been that he's given me back a sense of wonder. That some of that,
Uh-huh.
like those memories, I've got my tricycle from when I was 3 in the other room. So it's 47, 48 years old at this point. And, I just remember running around on that tricycle, pulling all the girls on the lot. I was 3. There's no way or 4 or whatever. There's no way that's really how that went down. So, what do you think of as your work now, Jeff? I believe you're retired now, aren't you?
Yeah, I've been
But
retired 2 years. Right around the time COVID hit,
mm, mm.
uh, is when I kind of retired. So
Do you?
what the heck was that? 2019, 20? I don't
Yeah,
even remember when that stupid thing started.
Good time to get out the game.
right. Let's play Plague Incorporated and see how this goes. Wah. Um, what? So do you feel like there's a work now? There's a passion or a how do you work? Even though you're no longer in the okay, I get paid for this. What's your work these days?
Well, let's see. I'm pretty much involved in benefits. There's competitions where you run upstairs, and I do a lot of those
Okay, yeah.
because they always bring in money. There are always some kind of benefit, like for the Lung Association or for veterans. Um, and I'm very much involved in that. I'm involved with my church also, and basically just trying to find a way to live life without feeling like you have to work.
Yeah, yeah.
There's a reason why a lot of people that retire end up going back to work
Look at
anyway.
yeah, that they haven't figured into something else.
Well, it's the thing that keeps coming up from other people is the whole idea of having a schedule,
Yeah.
and you go to work and then you come home and then you do this and you do that. I don't think it's that people are bored as much as it is um, that you have to have a whole different way of accounting for your time,
Mm.
and
A
that's
new
really
a new
really huge.
routine. Yeah,
Oh
yeah.
yeah, I mean every single day, for all your life, you got to get up, and then all of a sudden, well, you don't have to get up, and how do you fit that into your life? And it's just surprising how many people just, I'm gonna go back to work,
Mm.
just that's what makes them happy.
Well,
But not for me so much. That's I kind of got over
that
that.
that I know for me that if I take an extended period of time where I'm not working, which now I'm home and I'm working, but that I would always find that actually I would eventually like, and I can take about a week of sleeping in late.
Yeah, yeah,
But then what happens is you start to regulate and you start to go, okay, you know what? This is yeah, you have to start building some kind of schedule or
yeah,
it goes off the rails.
yeah, exactly. And that's not really an issue with me because I'm keeping very busy.
Mm.
But it certainly is a problem for a lot of people, and I can appreciate why. But
My grandfather, he retired and now he works more than he did before.
Mm.
Like he works more now that he's retired than he did when he was working,
You mean
which is
at his former job or
yeah,
just
at his
doing other
former
things?
job, just doing his own thing and stuff like that.
But now,
Jeez, yeah.
Yeah.
that's you know what? It just seems. Then again, I don't feel like what I'm doing right now is. I don't mean that it's not work. I really love what I'm doing right this.
Yeah.
I'm invested. For the first time in my life, I feel like I'm moving the direction I'm supposed to be, which has been kind of an interesting experience because there's a lot of self doubt that goes into that. Um,
Hmm.
but that, yeah, I always am going. I'm pretty driven by the idea of wanting to connect other people and wanting to connect the world and doing actively believing that by talking to other people, I, they are better able to feel seen, and then they feel better about seeing other people, and it just kind of does a some domino effect, if you will.
I think it can't be over exaggerated because I mentioned this in our men's group. The fact that what you're doing could really have implications far beyond what you ever realize because the whole business with the war that's going on.
Yeah, yeah,
If people talk to each other, like you talk to somebody in Russia, and then you talk to somebody in Canada, and just and you get a sense of wait a minute, this guy's in Russia. I thought they were all you know
oh,
this way, but this guy sounds like me, and
yeah,
then
yeah,
the guy from
yes,
Canada, and then Africa, and then because right now people are just kind of saying, what do we do to protect ourselves because we don't want to get invaded, by another country, and with what you're doing is that's kind of the opposite. It's kind of making a connection so that you understand what these other people are thinking, kind of thing. So
yeah.
who knows?
Thank
It may
you.
have
That
huge implications.
and I think I've talked about this in the men's group as well, is that I really honestly believe that staring at the center of the burning fire will seize you up. But that
Mm-hmm.
what you do is you fight fires at the you fight it at the edge. That
Mm-hmm.
and you push back on it as opposed to you try and figure out how to deal with the middle because the middle's not
Middle's where it burns the brightest.
yeah
You can't do nothing about that. You gotta get it where it's at its cool.
or put and slowly but surely
Start putting it out.
push back against it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, makes sense.
So do you find time to play or do you feel like the play and the running kind of has mixed at this point that the getting up the stairs has served multiple purposes?
Yeah, multiple purposes. Yeah, that's yeah. I think at some point, you lose play, and it's unfortunate, but kind of like what you were talking about earlier, where you just try to be able to do something without feeling like it always has to have a purpose. But early on, that gets ingrained, to be productive kind of thing. And play isn't necessarily, or shouldn't necessarily have to be productive. But
Yeah.
uh, it's probably, like you said, both at the same time for
Well,
me.
well, and then you also play music. You like to fiddle on a guitar. We're a
Hmm.
studio. We like to have musicians fiddling about, fiddling about. Oh, sorry. I every so often Pete Townsend like possesses me, and he's not even dead.
That won't be something you would not have me on your show. That's
that that you know what? No, it's not like that. That actually, I've got a guy that a friend of ours that comes in, and he spends a good portion of his time apologizing for his ability to play guitar. He plays it better than I do. I can't play guitar.
He plays it better than I
hmm.
do. I can't play guitar.
You almost had Mary Had a Little Lamb
He's
the other
got one
day.
up. No, it's fair. Yeah. Same thing.
But that this guy can come in and he can riff a little bit, and no, but that means these guys, my guys that are wanting to work on beats and stuff can pull instrumentals off of that. There's a whole, when you come together with people, it's not so much what can you play as do you have this love for it. That, I mean, we bring people, we work with people that are kind of figuring it out, and we try and find people's voices, because I honestly believe that in addition to things like talking to people, that the bringing music is so much a part of how people tell stories.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know that
sure.
it's these deeply moving pieces of people where where they're willing to put it out in front of the world and go, look, you can see my perspective, you can see what I'm going through. I mean, we had Anthem Republic on earlier tonight, and he is from Nairobi, and sings about knowing the difference between real bullets and rubber bullets by the time he was 3.
Huh. Wow.
He paints it. Wow, yeah,
That's some imagery right
that's a really powerful song. He goes
there.
back and
Yeah.
forth between the beat dropping and him telling the story, and then him. I.
Yeah, it's some powerful stuff.
But what we find over and over again is what musicians are doing is finding ways to express themselves. There's an artistry to all of us that we're kind of looking for a way for people to see us, where we can, where how can we or that's my personal experience. How can we,
Hmm.
how can I bring out, I've got notebook after notebook of me writing words. So what if maybe somebody can understand some piece of me because of these words? Or not. Some days they're just ridiculous. Some days they just say things like time differences. My notebooks right now are full of like plus this and plus that next to countries.
Oh, gee.
So how do you deal with the divine, with the universe? How do you deal? How do you pray?
Oh, my goodness. It's a personal experience.
Mm-hmm.
My brother and I have an ongoing conversation about when we meet our maker, we each have a list of why did certain things happen in a certain way, and we
Right.
have a list, kind of asking why did this have to be, why did that have to be, because you talked from early on, well, it all figures into a bigger plan. We don't understand now, but it's kind of like I can't remember exactly who said it, um, some famous author, but he said basically, we're looking at it from a book one page at a time, whereas God is looking at it from the perspective of a book. So we can only
Mm-hmm.
kind of see one page at a time instead of, like the
Books.
whole finished book.
Right.
Well, we
So,
were playing that game a little bit yesterday as we were talking. That we were talking about it. It came up relative to time travel, of all things. But what we were talking about was the idea that you look at what we think of as the atrocities of history.
uh,
That Mao, Lenin, Hitler, Stalin, those kinds of things. And at that point, what you have is it happens all over the world in these huge, ridiculous numbers. But maybe one of the other option was that there was one world dictator that almost decimates the entire world. And so you're going, well, why did these pieces happen, or this piece happen, or that piece happen? But the alternative may have been beyond our ken, if you will. That there's no way we would have known. That I've always had that same sort of feeling, like I don't know where it's going to fall into place. That sometimes the things that I've thought were awful things, right, ended up being good things, or vice versa. Like, why did it happen that
mhm.
way? Why do you end up, you know, it flips on you? I always work with a kind of we shall see attitude, because it's like, okay, I can't predict. All of the crappy things that have ever happened to me in my life brought me here, and this is a pretty amazing place I'm at.
Mhm.
So how do I define all those thoughts for the last however many years where it was crap? When now I
I just
go,
re-
yeah, go ahead.
I just remembered it was C.S. Lewis.
Ah, yes. A very wise Christian logician that he very much was C.S. Lewis was big into the logic and in bringing it he would in the examination of the thought.
Mhm.
One of my one
Right.
and plus, I mean, come on, The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe. But what do you love in this life?
Oh, geez. Just waking up every day
Hmm.
at a time. It's a significant event. I was diagnosed with kidney cancer a little over a year ago. I had a kidney removed,
Mm-hmm.
and that tends to change your perspective
Oh, it puts it in line, yeah. That okay.
because it's you're perfectly healthy, and all of a sudden you find yourself on your back, being rolled down into a major surgery. And the other shoe that drops is that the cancer gets removed, but then every 6 months you have another review of just to make sure
Mm.
nothing's come back. And I have that coming up in a little over a week.
Is there an anxiety
So
with that?
yeah, it's
Yeah.
to the point where there's a lot of Facebook support groups and they can be very helpful, but a lot of times people will just say, I can't be on this group anymore. I'm just tired of worrying about it, reading about other people worrying about it. So they just kind of, it's hard to put out of your mind.
I hope
You
Yeah.
that goes
try.
well for you.
Thanks.
Yeah, I'm
But
really rooting for you.
basically, you know, you're going to have a point where you go online and all these hospitals have your chart results up right away, which is kind of stupid, I think. And you come home and you just read. What are you going to read? You're going to read, everything's
You're gonna
clear,
read
or
your results.
sorry, you know, something's there and we have to investigate further. And those are all kind of life changing events. So you don't want to have life changing events all the time. so
Well, yeah.
so
There
yeah.
there is no doubt that it can get overwhelming. That the reality is it's I think sometimes what breaks us down is sometimes it comes feels like it comes in waves, that you're like boom, 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 boom. And how do you stand up under that?
hmm
So
hmm
I think that what do you love goes into what do you fear? That what it sounds like that's a very real thing that you carry is the well, but what if because do I remember that you're down to one kidney? Is that correct?
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
basically, yeah, so you're in a situation that if you see any, additional problems, and we talked previously, my wife, fortunately, had loss of function in both kidneys, but retained both kidneys and actually now has retained some function. That there was a weird infection that had gotten on the kidney, which was actually pneumocystis. It was pneumonia that her lung and her kidney were sitting funky and no one could see it at first. But that, yeah, the kidneys are scary. I don't know,
hmm
and painful as all hell. As somebody I've only ever once had a horrible kidney infection. And I mean, bad enough that they would have hospitalized me if I'd been willing to stay, but I'm a smoker. Um, so I was totally ridiculous and made a different decision. But
Hmm.
that, yeah, that's a pain. Brother, I just, you know what? I'm with you. I hope it all goes well because yeah, that's scary stuff. I know that we were going the thing that I was thinking was the wife and I went through. You were just for us it was checking to see where function was at. That every so often, you every 6 months get tested for function levels in her situation.
Huh.
And that there was that same eventually we've gotten a good ways away now. It's been a decade plus. We still do every so often they check function because they're not at 100%. But we've gotten more blasé about it obviously over the years. But that
Yeah.
that first few rounds of yeah, it's a visceral feeling. It's you know what the other option is. It's speaking of perspective, you were talking about the things you realize then that you love because of perspective, but you've also got now that perspective of this very real thing. You know, when we come into touch with our mortality for the, you know, not necessarily the first time, but you know what I mean? That
Hmm.
the more we dance with death, the more we feel the coldness of it of his breath upon us, you know.
Exactly. Exactly. Well put. That's sums it up pretty well.
We're hoping I
Exactly.
make pretty words.
That's what we're rooting for.
That's what we're rooting for. What do you feel like you know in this world, Jeff? What do you feel like you can hold on to as the thing that can get you through or the knowledge you have?
Oh my. Well, I'm going to be 72, so it's nice sharing experiences with other people as far as things you've been through and
Yeah.
helping people, not necessarily giving advice, but just kind of saying, well, I've been there, done that too, and that can be
Yeah.
healing in itself. I've been, through a divorce, cancer, um, spent most of my life in rehabilitation, physical rehab, and helping people with strokes and head injuries. Um, so I can offer my perspective on a lot of things, when I'm talking with people. And as you get older and you meet people, and more, they'll say, "Well, I had this happen and that happened," and you can just say, "I had that too." And
The
sometimes
relative
they'll ask,
struggle. Yeah, the
some,
relative. Go ahead.
sometimes they'll ask, "Well, well, what did you do, or what happened then?" And you could say, "Well, in my case, this happened." But, even just hearing that from me, from another person, oh, that's how it turned out for him, can be helpful because
Can
then they're
be
not kind of in a vacuum
Well,
type thing.
you're not alone.
Exactly.
That a lot of the motion that moved us in a direction for this project was the fact that we had both gone through low
therapy,
points in our
group
life where
therapy.
we ended up in group therapy situations. And the wild thing was that the second you walked into the room where people weren't hiding what they were going through, you were suddenly
Hmm.
there was a weight lifted just in realizing, oh, I'm not alone. That this room full of people that are there because they feel so oftentimes, I should not all obviously, that there's a that loneliness, that depression, that low point, that even in realizing that, oh, yeah, no, this isn't something that never happens. This human beings struggle with life.
Hmm.
And if we
Hmm.
talked about it, I don't know, we might not all feel quite so alone. you
That's
know,
very true.
it was how do you bring some of that realization to people that, you know what, you got to kind of understand that the other people are going through it too, and then that way we all give each other a little grace, you know?
Uh-huh.
It very much, I think grace is the word I'm looking for today. I think that's very much it. So
It's
go ahead.
it's it becomes very satisfying too. I think as you even grow older,
Mm.
because then you can just. It's like there's certain rivers of life that are going on, and some of them you can't change, but then you see somebody else's river going in a certain direction, and you've been there, done that. You can kind of tell them, there's another thing that could be happening here, and this is what happened to me that you hadn't maybe thought of. And then they say, "Oh, I didn't know that." So,
Perspective.
yeah, yeah, perspective.
That
Uh,
that a like I find one of the coolest things about doing these interviews is that time and again, not only do I find like shared perspectives, but I also find a different a looking at the same thing just from a different angle than I'm used to seeing it, if that makes sense. So
Hmm.
and sometimes that alone, I think, causes things to fall into place where you're like,
Hmm.
oh, okay, I hadn't seen that from that direction, and
Exactly.
that can be that I often think of what all we can share our experiences. We can live by example. We can't necessarily lead, but we can go, yeah, I fell down that pit once. What do you wish knew, Jeff?
Jeez. At this point in time in my life,
Sure.
uh, what the results of this scan coming up in a week
Right.
are going to
Yeah. No doubt.
be.
And you and the brother got a list for have lists for God. You've got a couple questions going, but other is there anything other than that?
That I want to know.
Yeah, or have you reached a point where you know what you're like, eh?
Uh, This is going to sound, with all the stuff that's going on in the world. I mean, there's a war going on,
Mm-hmm.
which I don't know if anybody expected. People would be thinking, well, this could be World War III, if we're not careful. And when's the last time you worried that somebody would push a button for a nuclear war? And all of a
Right.
sudden, people are thinking, geez. And then you have, kids getting killed. What is the second worst mass shooting? Or,
Yeah,
you
that's
know,
been
um,
insane.
so you kind of wonder somewhere along the line. I read, I don't even know if it's true or not, where the of all these species, that war, humans are the worst
Yeah.
at it.
Yeah.
The
Uh,
worst at fighting each other?
well, there's a
No,
brutality.
Oh, okay, okay. I was gonna
at,
say,
at
yeah.
causing war, making war,
Worst is in the
on
most
another
brutal.
Yeah, we're
Okay.
on
we
another species, or on them on the same. I guess it was making war on the others of the same
others of the
species.
same
Well, we
species.
use tools that are pretty advanced comparatively,
Well,
and
the other thing you're
it's
getting, the chimps are killing
once you're
gorillas
using
down in Africa now,
well,
though.
once you're using them against each other, it's like it's all hands off.
The
It's
level of warring tribes, which would be the right way to describe them at this point, of chimps who have noticeably they're thinking about like their weird territorial things going on, and it ends up primates are evil. Well, I mean, not evil. I shouldn't say that, but we're just kind of yeah, yeah. Well, and part of my outlook though is I feel like the kids have been in charge too long, and maybe the next round, maybe what needs to happen is this kind of communication that most of us have
Mhm.
had our head down trying to, build a future. And then the people in charge weren't those people because the rest of us had our head down trying to build a future.
Yeah, that's very true. Very true. And that's where it comes to, what's become more apparent in my life as I've gotten older, and it's the whole aspect of mindfulness.
Mm,
And because I would think, well, take a dog or a cat, and I don't think they're going to be able to think, or maybe they do think about, well, if I don't eat today, I'm going to starve tomorrow, or they're not thinking about, you know, their past so much. But we tend to spend a lot of our time thinking about what's going to happen next or what happened in the past instead of kind of enjoying the present moment,
mm.
and missing. We miss a lot of life because we're not
We're
fully
not
in the present.
present. Yeah, no, so, you know what? My comment in general is I can't live there or then, so I choose to reside here. That you know what, as much as I can't live any other place actually. That no matter when it was, I was always in the here. I was never in the behind or the forward. That here is the only place I can really do anything.
Hmm.
Um, some days it's easier than others. That
Hmm.
I find an amazing amount of knowledge available in just being present in a moment. That I call it my AK, my ambient knowledge. Sometimes I use my AK, man.
Today was a good day. I had to use my
I
AK.
had to use my AK. Today was a good
Yeah.
day. So why are you here on this planet, Joffrey Joffer? Why
Oh
are
my,
you here?
these are tough questions. And I
What?
already read the list.
I know, right? It's very
These,
the idea is really simple questions, but
They're deep though.
that bring you to a place where right, yeah.
You're forced to dig deep to get an answer.
Mm-hmm.
why am I here? Well, for whatever reason, it turned out to be always kind of in a helping nonprofit role,
Mm.
which I spent 26 years of my life doing. As far as if you let
In
work define your
service.
life, in
Yeah.
service,
Yeah.
exactly. So it's always been kind of like a service profession, and as you get older, you kind of wonder, uh, okay, where have I spent my years? And you're thinking, oh, that was good, or maybe you're thinking, well, maybe that part wasn't so good.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but it would seem for either, it was either the bigger plan from the man upstairs to have me do that, or I just kind of fell into it, fortunately, because I think it helped a lot of people.
I think that's
Uh,
meaningful. I
yeah,
find deep meaning. There's something about I argue some not argue, but I look at people and I will sometimes comment on the idea that you know what being compassionate isn't selfless. You know that being compassionate feels good, and you should do it because you deserve to feel good. That there's
mhm,
some there's being present with other people means the day goes a little smoother, means you rest your head easier at night, means you're somebody people can count on. It's kind of a nice feeling.
exactly,
Spoil yourself.
exactly.
Well, I will tell you that I have had a great time, Jeff. I love talking to you. That time and again, I just find it interesting the directions our conversations go. Got just a great range of experiences, and it's beautiful that that's what you want. That's what you bring. That's what you're sharing with people, and I really think in a lot of ways it's the most meaningful thing. Wow, words. Meaningful thing people can do is when the more we share our experiences with each other, the less we feel alone and the less maybe we see each other's perspectives.
And again, you don't know where this is all going to lead. What you're doing now, it could be, have implications that years from now,
Well,
people hearing other people talk and their perspective, and it, it'd be difficult to grasp how far this could go. Just exactly what you're doing with all these conversations and
that's
people
from
hearing other people's perspective.
from your lips to God's ears. Put me on the list.
Yeah, I mean, somebody may hear, well, this guy had cancer, and
Right.
they're hearing about somebody who had cancer, and then they're thinking, geez, I never thought about, well, I don't have cancer. That's a good thing. And, you know, helpful in its own way, just hearing other people's stories about what they're going through
Oh,
type thing.
I agree. I think you know what, and the fun part is part of what this project's doing is also building these rabbit holes. So we ask people 10 questions, and then we end up finding out we want to talk more. And so then you start creating a real person that's almost like a bonsai tree, but it's where people go, wow, I relate to that or this group of questions. And then you realize there's another piece, and we didn't plan it that way. It just kind of has evolved. And
Uh-huh.
I'm I'd love to claim this as some grand plan as opposed to I feel like I keep falling in it. But either way, as you know what I mean, that in the end, you never weird things happen for unusual reasons.
Exactly.
Strange things
Exactly.
are afoot at the Circle K. Thank you so much, Jeff. We'll all be back in about 15 minutes or so with a gamer by the name of Bent Hayes. It was really good talking to you, Jeff. And
Cool. Good talking to you too. Hang in there as you continue on your saga.
absolutely. Thank you, brother. And we will talk again soon.
Sure thing.
Bye bye.